Hello and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of cosmetic surgery. I'm Catherine Maley, your host and author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, I'm excited about today's guest, whom I've known for over 15 years now. It's Dave Kaufman. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon, and he's also a member of AAFPRS. However, I want to start way back because he started his career in the United States Naval Academy. And after graduation, he moved to Coronado, California, which is, by the way, a gorgeous place near San Diego. And he went there to be trained as a Navy SEAL and served in active duty for 4 years. That included duty in Operation Desert Storm. That's a big deal. And then he quickly learned he gets horrible seasickness. So that has to have been a tough experience for him. He then switched gears and he attended Harvard Medical School for his medical degree. And then he did his residency at Stanford University Medical Center. So he certainly went to the right schools. Now, Dr. Kaufman then served as the Interplast Jerome P. Webster Fellow. And Interplast is a nonprofit organization based in California that provides plastic and reconstructive surgery to needy children and adults in the developing world. He's actually participated in over 30 surgical overseas missions, and he's changed the lives of more than 750 children with cleft lip and palate deformities. Good for you. Dr. Kaufman opened his cosmetic and reconstructive practice first in Northern California in a place called Campbell, California. And then he was working with like the county hospital there, but then he moved up to more like Lake Tahoe area. It's called Folsom, California, near Sacramento. And he now has this gorgeous practice. It includes a private surgical center. He's got a partner now that we're going to talk about. He's got 20 staff, which we have to talk about, and that includes his wife. And he offers complete surgical, reconstructive, and non-surgical services. So, Dr. Kaufman, I want to welcome you to Beauty in the Biz.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Sure. Now, we have to start with this Navy SEAL thing because I know enough about it to know you have to be a certain type of person to get through it. So could you just lightly tell us how in the world did you start there? What did you learn from it? And what did you take away from Desert Storm? Because that had to have been unbelievable.
Sure. Well, that's what my differentiator is, and I'm so proud of it. And from my career at this point, that's probably the thing I'm still most proud of is my service as a SEAL. So as you mentioned, I went to the Naval Academy, and that was sort of my ticket out of Ohio.
Oh.
I was really motivated. I was very patriotic, and I wanted to go to one of the academies, and I was lucky enough to get into Navy. And at that time, the SEALs were still pretty understated. There weren't books and movies and that sort of thing. So I learned what they were when I was actually at the academy, and it was super inspiring. So you have to try out to get into the SEALs from the academy. And once again, I was lucky enough to get a slot. And when I got there, I had the chance to work with unbelievably motivated and talented folks. SEAL training itself was challenging to say the least. Our class had, a attrition rate of about 80%. But I always thought, if I looked at the guy on the left and look at the guy on the right, and if they can do it, I can do it, sort of thing.
Right.
And I promised myself that I would just never quit. So I would black out if I had to. I would get circused if I needed to, but I wouldn't quit. They could throw me out if they wanted, but I wasn't going to quit. And I made it. So I was then assigned to SEAL Team 5, and my first platoon, we were overseas when Desert Shield and Desert Storm happened. So sadly, instead of getting to go to Australia, I went to the northern part of the Persian Gulf to, enjoy the warm climate in the summer. And it was really cool. We got to do real missions. We took over some ships that were running blockades. We did some intelligence gathering operations. We got some of the prisoners off the outlying islands. And, more than anything, I got to do my part. But when I came home, I really thought that, my career would be better served doing something constructive than destructive because, the SEALs are really good at destroying things.
Right.
And I wanted to do something a little bit more constructive. And the other thing I thought was, I had a chance to serve in a combat situation, and once was enough for me. So when I was getting out, my commanding officer happened to know a guy that was on the admissions board for Harvard. And next thing you know, I was off to Harvard. So I
But
was
did you
very
want to be a
fortunate.
plastic surgeon? Had you been
Oh,
thinking about being one forever, or how did that come up? How did you go from a Navy SEAL to a plastic surgeon?
um, that wasn't the plan. None of this was the plan, to be honest. It just sort of happened. I thought I'd be an orthopedic surgeon because, I like sports and I'm sort of like a guy. So I thought I'd be an orthopod. But when I got there, it really didn't turn me on. And my roommate, um, Bert Loskin, who's a plastic surgeon now at Emory, and his dad, I got to know really well, and his dad's super inspiring. He did craniofacial surgery, did all this amazing stuff. So I got to see firsthand, well, secondhand, I guess, what he did. And it was so neat what he did that it really pushed me to go towards plastics instead of ortho. And then, once again, I was lucky enough to get a residency slot there. And, off I went. And, here I am now based on a few really neat contacts and, mentorships along the way.
That's amazing. So when you get into, so you go to Stanford, you get out of Stanford, and now it's time to start a practice. You
Yes.
decide, and this is where there's that fork in the road. Like, how do you jump into this industry? Now, 15 years ago, this was before almost the internet. This was all pretty new. Yeah, like we were still doing yellow pages at that point. But so 15 years ago, here you are saying, okay, I'm going to be a plastic surgeon now, and you went to the right schools. Was that enough to get you started? And then where do you go? You decide, do I work for another surgeon? Do I go into private practice? Do I work for a hospital? How did you make that jump or that transition into real life?
So at that point, I really wasn't super interested in private practice because I wanted to sort of practice a broader array of what I had learned. So I started at the county hospital, which was one of the Stanford teaching hospitals. So I ran a burn unit and did reconstructive surgery. And also at the same time, I had the good fortune of having a mentor in the community who ran a private practice. So in the afternoons or sometimes on the weekends, I'd go in and inject for him. And then that led to some surgical patients. But during that time, he taught me a lot about aesthetic surgery. And, I hope things are different now, but when I went through the training to be an aesthetic surgeon really wasn't that great in residency. It was sort of the bastard children. You're supposed to be a craniofacial or microsurgeon or something like that, or a hand surgeon. Cosmetic surgery was so far down the rungs that we really weren't well trained. And hope, and I imagine that's different at this point, but I really had to go off into the community and find people that would show me how to do these things. And Dr. Berkowitz was so kind and generous with both his knowledge of plastic surgery as well as practice management. And then we sort of got to this pivot point where, we either needed to stay or go. And at that point, my wife, Kate, and I had our first child, and we just thought the Bay Area was too congested, too for us to stay. So we looked for, someplace else to go. And that's when we left.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Northern California, they had a huge growth spurt. A lot of people left the Bay Area, like let's call it the Silicon Valley. The Silicon Valley just grew, and it was so incredibly expensive to live there. And then what happened was even the corporations were moving up to Sacramento, north of the Bay Area of Silicon Valley, like you did. I mean, you couldn't have gone to a better place. My Lord, since you moved there, I mean, didn't Google show up there, and Genentech showed up there, and dear Lord.
Well, a lot of people are sort of sadly skipping Sacramento and moving all the way out of California, as you probably know. But Sacramento's a great place. There's the seat of the government, so that's never going anywhere.
Right.
The housing prices are substantially less, so people can live there reasonably.
Right. So
there's an enormous and continued growth of the population. But more than anything, people are really nice. Like, it's a great place to live. There's lots to do. Tahoe is near us. There's really everything you can want. So, I think.
Right. You're from Ohio and I'm from Chicago, and I never snow skied ever because I hated how cold it was and icy, and it never even dawned on me to learn, like, why would I want to be outside anymore? And then when I moved here, when I was in my very early 20s, it seemed like everybody, I lived in San Francisco and the whole world went skiing every weekend in Tahoe. And I had to learn how to ski or I was never going to have any friends. And then I was up there every weekend. So Tahoe was lovely. Of course, since I started my own business, I haven't been up since, but you're very close. What are you, an hour and a half away from Tahoe?
Hour and a half. In fact, I just got back about half an hour ago.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. All right. So now you transition again because first you're a Navy SEAL, then you're a cranial facial kind of guy.
Well, I did the fellowship for
All right. So you did some fellowships and you were liking recon, right? You liked the recon.
I did. I did. I wish I could do it now, but in California, it doesn't work. But
that's where I'm going. So you like the recon, and you were doing it, and then you were kind of dabbling a bit in aesthetics. You were also hanging around with some mentors who were guiding you, and then you decided, I'm just going to leave and start all over again. You're big on that. So how do you just start over? Because now you don't know anybody up there in Sacramento, or do you? Is your family? Is your wife up there?
My wife's sister lived here.
Okay.
So we had, a little bit of a connection. We essentially leveraged everything we had. We bought a building, built a surgery center.
Oh, you built? Oh my God.
Developed a plan, stuck to the plan, and the plan actually worked, and it's been great ever since.
No kidding.
There were a couple of challenging moments. One of which I think it might be relevant to, this discussion was probably the biggest fight my wife and I have ever had. There was this thing back in the day called BeYourBest.com. And BeYourBest.com basically would get patients on the internet and they would guarantee a board-certified plastic surgeon would do their surgery, but it was like totally bargain basement, cut rate pricing, very low quality care. But if I took that position, I would basically operate, Saturdays and Sundays and do their patient load, but it would guarantee that we wouldn't go bankrupt. And I was like, my wife didn't really have a great handle on the numbers, and I did, and I knew that we were really spread thin. And she was like, we can't do this because if you brand yourself as a bottom feeder, you will never outlive that. So I said, all right, well, as long as you're okay that if this goes kaput, that I just go work at Kaiser or, be an employed plastic surgeon, and you go back to work at like UC Davis or something like that, you're fine with that. I think it's the right thing for us to, not take on the risk of being branded as a bottom feeder and take the high road. And we did. And, I was on a Pepsi drip for a while, and I only had a couple of ulcers, but it all worked out in the end. And I think that was the biggest thing, is that when we decided to identify ourselves, we stuck with our brand, and then carried that through, really to this day.
So when you first got into practice, you literally bought the building right from the get-go?
Yes. Well, we're in the Bay Area. We were in the Bay Area, and we bought a house right when we got married. So we had 2 years of growth, and that was a few $100,000.
Oh, good, yeah.
So we parlayed that into a down payment for a building.
Wow. Okay.
And I sort of felt like I needed to, because the demographic research I did up here was that there weren't really any surgery centers that I would have access to. So even if I had a patient that wanted me to be their surgeon, there'd be no place to take them.
Okay.
So I felt like I had to build a place so that there was a place to operate. So that's what we did.
How many square feet?
3,500.
How many?
3,500.
Oh,
that was the
big.
first place.
That's
yeah.
Big. But how many is your new place?
13.5.
It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Turned out really nice.
Yeah, you need to check it out online. It's very gorgeous. All right. So where did the partner fit into all of this?
Sure. Well, I've had two partners. My first partner was Dr. Krista Clark. And
I remember that.
Yeah. So when I got up to Sacramento, it became immediately apparent that it was a fertile place to start a practice. And Krista was finishing an aesthetic fellowship. And I knew her as a resident. She's a great gal and smart, good surgeon, like everything you would want in a partner. So I called her, asked her if she'd consider joining me. And she did, and we had 10 great years together. She, however, always sort of wanted to create her own brand. Right. And I think, this was sort of my-ish, or mine and Kate's place. So after 10 years, when we decided we needed to move out of our little building, she decided to go her own way. So she has practice in Granite Bay, and, it's, we had a great run. I think what was nice is I'm a he and she's a she, and there's an obvious differentiator there. And it worked really well. I have another partner now that has been with me just about 2 years. He was another Stanford resident that had gone on a volunteer surgery trip. And he actually had the same job I did at the county hospital. Great guy, honest, really good surgeon. So, he's getting up and going, and his ramp is going up, and so far so good.
Now, what's unusual is you seem to go straight to partnership. Most surgeons start with, let's just do some contracting work here to see if we can even get along. You'll be an associate for a while. You're going to pay your dues, and then we're going to make you partner someday when you're willing to pony up and bear some of this risk. Do you have a philosophy on that?
Well, I think what you're saying is exactly right. So my current partner, I call him a partner because we behave as partners. Currently an employee.
Gotcha.
And certainly there's an opportunity down the road for a true partnership if that's what both of us want. But at the moment he's an employee, but we certainly face the patients as a partnership.
Gotcha. And then how do you split up the new leads that are coming in? If they don't call and say, I specifically want Dr. Kaufman, how are you handling that? Because that can cause some trouble.
It does. So, the receptionists up front have talk tracks as to how they present if they don't know who they want to see. There's a procedure that we try and steer to Dr. Davis because he's becoming, the regional expert in those. Then it somewhat comes down to the day they want to be seen. We do clinics on different days, so if it's convenience that they go to me on a Monday or Friday and him the rest of the days a week.
Okay.
That's another way.
Now, are you still
generally most people know who they want to see,
okay.
So there's very few people that say, well, I don't know, just put me in on Tuesday.
Okay. Where do you fit in now with the recon? Are you still doing recon or?
No,
you completely gave it up.
I do not.
California does that. You cannot make a living here with doing recon. As much as you want to help the world, it's difficult.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you. So what happened, I had this epiphany moment. All my buddies in California were like, oh, Dave, don't do it. Don't even try. You can't. So I had a patient that needed a breast reconstruction. And I spent my entire day, went to the hospital, marked it before the general surgeon did their thing, and did a reconstruction. In the end, I was reimbursed after fighting with the insurance company for months, $1,200. And, do the math. You can't keep your doors open if you spend an entire day and generate $1,200 in revenue. My friends in Texas who do deep laps, they do great because the insurance in Texas is different than it is in California.
Right.
But you probably know if you're not in private practice doing mostly aesthetic work in California, you're a hospital employee or a Kaiser employee or assistant employee, and then you could do altruistic reconstructive work without worrying about the finances. But if you have any business acumen, it's just not going to happen in the state.
For sure. Actually, I used to have a client here in California, and he was building out his own surgery center because breast reduction was still very well reimbursed. And in the middle of it, he's $6 million in, and they stopped it overnight. The reimbursement of it, and he was screwed until he revamped things. But wow, it's not easy here. Let's talk about the 20 staff, because that in itself can be a business, just trying to figure out how to work with all these. I assume most of them are women. So we've got 2 male surgeons, the rest are women. Are they working well together? What kind of pearls have you learned with managing a whole bunch of females?
Well, certainly that's the hardest part of running any practice, is managing the staff. I've been really fortunate. We've got a few key staff who are worth their weight in gold. And actually, most all of them are really worth their weight in gold. I think if I were to learn my lesson, the lessons I've learned, and we're getting much better at this, is I would I would not tolerate incompetence or poor performance less than I have. I think I've been much more kind than I should have been. I think I should have, chopped off the ugly head when it needed to be. But I always sort of think that people are good and give them chance after chance after chance. I think when I see an employee that's really not pulling their weight, we're much better now at just counseling and then removing, as opposed to trying to, keep the bad apple in the group. If I look at my own business management, I think I would be much better at communicating, although I'm trying to get better at it. But it's certainly an art managing, a whole host of folks like that.
I still think it's better, just from all the consulting I've done, I think it's so much better when the surgeon is the visionary and the leader, which means they can't get to you, quite frankly. I think staff love to jump over everybody to personally get to you because you have a softer side, usually. And I think it works better when you have a buffer between you and the staff. You set your expectations, what you'll tolerate, what your values are, what your brand is, and keep reminding them constantly, this is who we are, this is how we present ourselves to the world. And then I think somebody else has to do the HR. I really do. Is your wife involved in any of that?
Oh, I think you're spot on. We have sort of two points of contact before me. We have sort of odd leaders, and then we have my wife, who's the practice manager, HR person. But invariably, since I'm in contact with everyone every day, there's always sidebars. But they generally know that the chain of command is what it is and to follow it. I think your point is very accurate, but I'm not great at not listening. So,
but I also want them to love you, and so it's almost like the good guy, bad guy, or good cop, bad cop. I mean, they need to represent you, and if they're mad at you, it's hard for them to promote you as the best. So I like that you kind of stay up, and then everyone says, "Oh, but that's so bureaucratic." But it's also pragmatic, there's too many personalities involved under one roof for you to be involved in all of that.
I completely agree, and like I said, we do have a system in place. It's imperfect, but we try.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of incentive plans? How are you keeping people motivated day after day, year after year? Are you bonusing, having parties? What are you doing?
So we bonus for sure, and there are certainly incentive programs for that. It was funny. One of my very best friends, Simeon Wall, and have all sorts of conversations about practice management. And when we started, we sort of bonus everyone equally. And he's like, Dave, you're an idiot. Like, you need to bonus people according to their performance, not according to their time in the office. Because if you bonus everyone equally, you're basically rewarding the bad performers. So very early on, we shifted a much more performance-based system. And within each area, so there's patient care coordinators, there's aesthetic providers, and there's the receptionists. And each of those has a incentive plan that they draw from. The goal being that, ultimately we really try and treat people well, compensate them very fairly, better than average, to make sure that they feel valued, and also, of course, have financial incentives to encourage them to perform a little better.
So they have personal bonus plans versus a team bonus plan.
Each team.
Yes, each team. Good.
Has it. And they're, when we, at one point, you learn these little things along the way. At one point, I had a sort of a competition amongst the receptionists to who could schedule more.
Right.
Then it became like a battle between them as opposed to a team effort. So that lasted like a quarter, and I realized I'd unleashed something that I really didn't want to. And then I turned it back into a group effort, and all of a sudden everything was harmonious again and working the way it was supposed to. So each of the silos essentially is a team, although there are some people that are their only thing. But I never pit them against each other for fear of creating competition against each other.
Right.
I always want the goal to be united in terms of our quality of service.
For sure. Is there anything about your new building, because you had a big build out, how long did that take?
2 years.
Holy cow. Anything learned from that for the others who are thinking about building their own building?
It's the best thing I ever did.
Oh, good for you.
So our first building was 3,500 square feet, and with 2 surgeons, we were bursting at the seams. Our new building is spacious. It has much greater patient privacy. If there's ever a problem, like you have a hematoma and they need to get back in the OR, it's great to have 2 ORs. So, if you ever need to get someone in while someone's operating, that's great. If you have a partner, it's great to have 2 ORs so that the bottleneck is never the operating room, because you don't want a limited resource like that to cap your production. It's really nice to have creature comforts so your staff is happy where they're at. We have a really big break room with a ping pong table, a nice big refrigerator, and oven so people can prepare their food if they wish. Each morning when I pull up on the parking lot, I feel really happy with where I'm going to work, and I hope that is, the same for our staff, because it's really nice to like where you work. And ultimately, most of us spend as much time in our office as we do any place else.
For sure.
So it's nice to have a nice place.
Are you actually using all of that space right now?
Pretty much.
Holy cow.
There's a couple of places that we could have cut corners on and maybe have a couple less exam rooms. But I'll tell you, when it's busy, it's so nice to have a couple of overflow rooms. We have a private entrance. We have a private entrance for our post-op surgical patients, so they don't have to come to the waiting room. The exit of the surgical suite is different from where the patients come in, so they don't have to worry about crossing paths. The sound is really well managed so that you can't hear what's going on in the next room. We have a great photo setup so we can display the quality of our work. I sometimes shake my head when I look at meetings or other surgeons' website and I see the garbage photos they have. Like, there's no excuse. So, we built a dedicated photo room to make sure that, the quality of our images are as commensurate with our brand.
But that's the secret, is to have a photo room. Everyone's just winging it and putting a backdrop behind a door, and that doesn't do it. You need professional photos. Right.
It's important because people, most of my patients at this point are coming because they're referrals, but we still get a lot of people from Instagram and just searching the web. And I think if your photos are not top quality, you're missing a huge opportunity.
So let's just move on to marketing then. Marketing is still, branding is everything now, because it is getting fairly commoditized out there with the non-surgical, and it's a competitive arena. And it's not what it was 15 years ago. So I used to say, what is with these surgeons? What are they talking about with their brand? They're not Coca-Cola. I so get it now. It's who are you to the world? When I hear your name, do I think quality, or do I think, oh, he's one of those lowbrow guys? Do I think consistent, great results? Or do I think, oh, he's got a crappy website? Branding is everything you're doing to represent who you are. You're telling that to the whole world with your great website or crappy website or your outdated website. I'm so surprised how many doctors skimp out on redoing their website. You can tell an old school website, easily now, and then you can see the new websites. And it is a game. But it's a game you have to play. Because if you're too young to look like you have an old website, and it really hurts your brand. But then you also have to have the right staff and have the right people answering the phone. And there's so much to that. So let's talk about marketing. How much time have you spent developing your brand, and then how do you get your name out there in the industry now with the internet, with social media?
Sure. I couldn't even begin to answer that first question, because the number of hours that I've spent trying to brand our practice is countless.
Right.
I couldn't even try and put a number on it, but it's been a 15-year body of work. It's not like, I spend 2 hours a week. That's what it's always been. As I mentioned before when I chatted with you, there was this book I read before I started called A Brand Called You by Peter Montoya. And that was like a light bulb moment for me, because his book really made me realize that when people are choosing you, they're choosing me, not like, some flashy name. So that's why we have our names in our business. And I sort of feel like you have to decide what you want to be and then develop a plan to be that thing. So we wanted to be a very reliable, consistent, top level plastic surgery practice. And we put, sort of a multi-channel collateral plan together. When we started, it was some magazines, a lot of investment on our website. Back then, there were a lot of internet portals that are sort of have gone by the wayside, with the exception maybe Real Self.
Directories, right? They were so
Directories,
popular, and then overnight, Google said no more directories. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And how do we define ourselves now? Well, we still spend a lot of time and effort on our website. We continue to add cases to the gallery, almost every week. I have a meeting with one of my gals every few weeks, and we go over all befores and afters, and then we say which ones we want to go to the web, which ones we want to go to Instagram, that sort of thing. I would say probably where we spend the most amount of effort now is Instagram, partially because I really like it. And the other is, it's a great platform for us. I think anyone who's coming to a plastic surgeon's practice is a little bit nervous or, feeling uncomfortable about sharing their vulnerabilities. And I think what we use Instagram for is to show us as real people. So our Instagram posts are, some of me, some of Dr. Davis being ourselves. Some of it's our families, some of it's our travels. Some of it's befores and afters to occasionally throw in, the quality of our work. Occasionally we promote some non-surgical specialties or specials, that sort of thing. We've had some pretty good success, I think, with some contests on on Instagram. We've had a pumpkin carving contest, and each year that seems to have some really great responses.
Wait, so map it out. What does that mean?
So the beginning of October, we announced the contest, and you basically are tasked with creating a Halloween scene with pumpkins that somehow makes you think of Kaufman and Davis plastic surgery. So we've had just amazing responses. People that have carved out like surgeons, or, I remember a gal that used droopy pumpkins as boobs and needed a lift. And we probably get 20, 30 contributions each year. And then we reward them based on their contributions. So there's, a few grand prizes, a few sort of second tier prizes, and a few third tier prizes. But I've always rewarded almost everyone who contributes to that. Because I spend that much effort, I can give some Botox.
For sure. Everyone's a winner at that point, anyone who participated. But then there's a big winner, but everybody should win. Didn't you do something last year? I follow you on Instagram, but you know what? Let me just say something about that. I find that I follow surgeons, and then I realize, wait a second, where did they go? I never see them anymore. Everyone needs to remember that Instagram is playing games now with that, and they're strangling. Is that what the word is? Strangling your reach that you're going to get to your patients. Apparently, they only give you like 5 to 10% of your audience, and then whatever. But the point of the story was, you had some kind of stick, like your photos on a stick. What was that? That was cute.
So Dr. Davis and I became flat family, and the promotion was take us with you on your trip. Take a picture with us and submit it to our Instagram contest.
Okay.
And just like every other one, we had prizes for the winners. And we had people take us all over the place.
Did, yeah.
We had South Africa, we had Europe, we had people go diving, we had a bullfight, we had a World Cup soccer game. And just, of course, if they put it up on their page, it was enormously satisfying to me because I was on their mind while they're on vacation, which is awesome. And of course, our friends would see it. So I think it just, it validates the fact that we're out there and people trust us, because if they're willing to take pictures with us, that's sort of implicit trust, and that's what we were looking for.
Well, you can tell you put some time into that. Are you personally putting your time in? Do you have somebody on staff that's responsible for keeping the Instagram page alive and well?
So yes, to your second question, there's a gal at our office who's primarily responsible for our our Instagram.
Good.
And she is amazing. She, I hired her 6 years ago now, I think. She was trying to sell me television advertising. And I just didn't think that was consistent with our brand. And after our second meeting, I was like, I'm not going to buy your advertising, but I would love it if you would switch gears and come work with us.
Wow, good
And she
job.
did. And she has been amazing. She really likes Instagram. She's very creative. So she creates a lot of these ideas. And of course, we work through them together to refine the general concept. But she's the spear of the point of the spear on our Instagram. And she's just amazing.
How much time do you think you're averaging on it a week? A day?
I would probably say there's probably 3 to 4 to 5 hours of her effort. And increasingly, there's more time spent responding to comments. And I would say that's gone on in exponential rise, because as the more people use that as a platform of conversation, people expect you to respond on their terms, and we are making an effort to do that.
You're responding yourself?
No. Well, I will read through them, and sometimes if it's a patient I know and it's a question directed to me, I'll respond. But if they're general inquiries, then she takes care of it.
But when it comes to creating content, and I've been to your Instagram page, it's good, but you're a lot of it. It takes you to do that page. It's so. How much of your time is spent?
It's so hard to say. I feel sort of good because when I first started, it took me a really long time to create a post.
Yeah.
Now I can speak into a camera really well, very quickly. Yeah. So, it only takes a couple of times usually to get a decent post. But I do whatever she tells me to. Okay. I'm sort of a good soldier in that regard. She tells me to do it, and unless I find it completely I won't do it. She wanted me to do this TikTok dance the other day, and I just, not happening. But I probably spend an hour or two, trying to create the content for Instagram.
Mm-hmm. All right, so TikTok is the new Instagram, and there will always be a new one coming. All I'm going to say is, if you're going to be around for the long haul, right, get on TikTok now while they're still very young. But I don't know if you're supposed to be selling plastic surgery to young kids, although the rhinos would be a good idea. But you know what? It's a cheap audience for now, that will grow. But you just have to decide where you're going to spend your time.
Right.
Gosh. All right. So, and by the way, I do believe every practice should, or is, I hate to say the word should, probably wants to have a videographer or a roving reporter that is catching you in the act of being a plastic surgeon, because they have to help you create that content while you're still doing your thing. And I think they have to catch that, because you don't have all day to fiddle around with this. I would rather them just capture you doing your thing.
We do actually have a professional videographer from the local news channel that was Courtney's connection. And those are a little bit more formal. We'll do patient stories, but intermixed with the patient stories, we try and do 10 quick questions with Dr. Kaufman or 10 quick questions with Dr. Davis, but just so they're filmed with good lighting and good editing. Mm-hmm. But so, yeah, we have that. And then, like I said, Courtney does, sort of roam the office with the camera occasionally to try and create, sort of off-scripted content.
It was really funny. You and your wife did a video, and it was one of those who is the best or who does what. That was hysterical. And you got some good views from that. Isn't that what the audience loves?
People want to see you as who you are. I think when they're choosing a plastic surgeon, they're not just choosing someone that could stick a breast implant in. Mm-hmm. They're choosing someone they think can trust and will take care of them and do the best job they can for them. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things I've got a lot of feedback for is, I certainly come across as a family guy, which is what I am.
Well, the family's on your homepage,
They're everywhere. I mean, they're always around. And, I'm sure people choose other surgeons because of other things, but we get a lot of positive feedback because, we've been married for 17 years. We've got 3 kids. We're very normal suburbanites. Yeah. And I think people can identify with that.
For sure. Do you do a lot of mommy makeovers? Because it seems like that would be right up your alley.
Well, we're smack in the middle of affluent family land. Mm-hmm. So, Folsom's relatively, I think there's 75,000 people or so in our suburb. mostly younger families. They average probably 2 to 3 kids, with enough disposable income that they can, use it to look good or fix their bodies back up again.
Mhm.
So it's a really nice place to both live and work.
And did you get involved in the community how did you grow your name there? Did your wife get involved in the community?
I don't think we ever, we didn't we never joined a country club. We didn't really do anything specifically like that,
Mm-hmm.
but we moved into a sort of a high density housing area while we were building a house. And, there's a lot of things that sort of help your practice along the way, but the lady right across the street, we sort of nicknamed her the mayor of El Dorado Hills because she knew everybody.
Yes, those are good people to know.
Yeah, well, we have sort of beer drinking Fridays on her driveway.
Oh my God.
So we just go across the street with our kids and have a couple of beers and hang out. And we got to know a lot of folks. When my son got older, I coached baseball. So I got to know some families that way. But, there really wasn't a script to how to get our name out from a social standpoint. It just sort of happened. And our marketing through more conventional channels was really how we got busier.
And then how long did it take for you to grow that name where you were comfortably paying your overhead?
I almost am embarrassed to say this, but it was almost the first day we opened.
Really?
And I'll tell you, so we marketed heavily for 4 months before we ever moved to Sacramento. So we had patients to see the very first day, and we essentially had a full schedule.
Wait, and what was your message? I'm coming to town. Welcome. I welcome you to my new practice.
Introducing new plastic surgeon David Kaufman. These are my credentials. I have some unique differentiators that I think separate me, and at least give me the opportunity to earn people's trust. So literally almost as soon as we opened the doors, we were working. So I felt really, really lucky.
Okay, because we used to say it takes
10 years. It was
15
years ago, though. Remember that?
Right. Like we used to say it takes 10 years to build a practice, and now you have about 10 months to get going.
It was a different time, and I was very fortunate. I moved to the right city. We spent a lot of money on marketing to make sure that people knew we were here, just so I could be considered if someone was considering plastic surgery.
So would you say how much percentage of your new patients are coming from the internet versus referrals? Do you have any
Now
idea?
or then?
Now.
Probably 75% are referred from other patients.
Thank you. Yes.
It's actually sort of fun because last week, I think I had 5 patients that have already done surgeries on 7 to 10 years ago.
Yep.
So, the patients just love. They're known entities. They trust you. There's no sales cycle. It's just, what do you want? How can I do this? How can I best serve you? And it's a great relationship. So now that I'm getting a little bit more senior, well, really senior at this point, it's a really nice place to be in practice.
Well, it should be. And now Breast Dog will now come back for her mommy makeover, and her daughter will come in for the rhino, and it just goes around and around. I just think that will never change. And unless you want to play a different game that's a lot more complicated, why not do it the way you're doing it? It's a nice, easy, organic way to grow a practice.
I've got no complaints. Our practice has grown at a reasonable pace. Very happy. We love our patients. I feel very, very, very fortunate every single day I come to work.
Good for you. So let's talk about mindset, because I love that.
Sure.
Now, you must have a growth mindset, because you didn't just plop down a 13,000 square foot building for nothing. So you must think that way. Did your Ohio is also very Midwest, very let's work hard. I came from that. Let's just work hard. Not smart, just work hard. And I've been trying to get rid of that and go with the abundant. I just want a growth mindset, not a work hard and kill yourself, But you probably came from that, right?
I'm very Midwestern at heart, yes.
Yes. And what did you learn from being a Navy SEAL? You must be the most disciplined person. Do you make your bed every day?
Well, usually someone's still in the bed when I get up, so it might sometimes.
But you're pretty disciplined, right?
Yes,
Are you still, or did it come? Did you relax a bit?
I'm still very methodical,
Yeah.
and very organized. But I really like that. You know,
Right.
I'm sure if you ask my surgical techs, the way I do surgery is like I got a way I do it, and it works. And I've continued to refine my craft over the years, and I'm so proud of the work product we produce. But it is my way. Like I want it done exactly the way I want it done, and they know it. But it's actually really good for them because they know exactly what to expect on any given day. And it's very easy for them to just do what they're supposed to do and make the world or make our surgical world work great.
Well, they have clarity. Clarity.
People want to know what's
Yes.
expected of them,
Yes.
and they know exactly what's expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
But no, from a mindset standpoint, I have never been afraid to work hard, and I'm still not afraid to work hard. I have always tried to sort of make my craft better, and one of the things that I can't remember if we talked about this yet or not, but I've got a group of 20 plastic surgeons
Yes.
whom I share ideas with. And the beauty of these plastic surgeons is they're all in different cities. So none of us has a sort of a competitive reason to not share their information. And on this thread, we share both practice pearls, capital purchase ideas, surgical techniques, even how to battle this whole COVID business. In a private practice, you're a little bit isolated, so a lot of it isolated, and it's great to have people that you can rely on to help improve your skills. So,
what a great idea! Did you start this?
I did. I didn't do it just like everything else in my life. I didn't do it intentionally. I had a complication, and I reached out to some friends, and there was probably 5-10 guys, and then it's now been expanded, and we all sort of use it as a
sounding board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is it like a private Facebook group?
Well, there's one on WhatsApp that Simeon started for largely dealing with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of taken on the same flavor, and then I've largely just used an email thread. To provide.
But that's what you guys need, because you live in your own little bubbles, and when you need to know something, who do you call on? The person who is the least biased, so you can get a straight answer, right?
Yeah.
What a great idea. It's like having your own little support group. Congratulations.
It is. And it's fantastic. Anything from even like negotiating pricing with reps, because that way you'll know what best pricing in the country is.
Mm-hmm.
To how to manage a complication. I had a facelift at a complication on 2 weeks ago, and I was just scratching my head, and finally I put it up to the group. They came up with some great ideas, and never even crossed my mind.
Oh, nice.
And we've hopefully successfully managed this complication at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just invaluable to have colleagues that you trust that can help.
What a great! I hope everyone's hearing this. You didn't get there by accident. I mean, you keep saying you were very fortunate. I must say your location was brilliant. That was a great move on your part. But also mentors along the way, consultants along the way, support group along the way. None of us can do this by ourselves. So
takes a village.
It really does. Yeah, you and Clinton. Just out of curiosity, do you know who David Goggins is? He's a Navy SEAL, and he has a book called "You Can't Hurt Me," and he is the most intense, redonkulous person on the planet. Like, he'll run a marathon with broken feet, kind of guy, that kind of guy. And and his book is, he came from a horrendous childhood, and in his head, he's saying, "I'm going to give me more pain than you could ever give me." Like, he has a crazy way of thinking, but. He's like, that's why I know about Navy SEALs, and I think, dear Lord, what kind of people are you? But you seem very grounded. Although, are your boys intense like you, or are they really laid back?
No, they're pretty laid back.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be any more Navy SEALs in my family. My daughter maybe, but I don't think I think it stops here.
Okay.
Which is fine with me. Yeah.
Okay. So does it feel like they might follow you in medicine, or no chance?
My oldest son, no. My youngest, who knows? My daughter is definitely, a really sort of a wonderful spirit that likes to help people.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she lands in healthcare. I know at the moment she wants to be a performing artist of some sort.
Oh.
But yes, yeah.
Okay, and tell us something we don't know about you. But I'm going to first preface this by saying I love on your website you have those 10 things that are interesting about you. I
Sure.
highly recommend everybody do that, because I will never forget now about your ice cream. Do you know I have the same 3 flavors that are my favorite, like yours? I mean, that's so weird. Like, if I was trying to pick a plastic surgeon, there's a good chance I would have picked just because of my ice cream selection. But then tell them about your Gwyneth Paltrow story.
Oh, so one of the things that sort of solidified my wife's and I relationship was I'm actually another plastic surgeon, Josh Corman.
Yes.
Josh is or was, I guess was because he's deceased, friends with Gwyneth Paltrow's dad. And when she had, I think, broken up with Brad Pitt, she apparently wanted to get out of the Hollywood lifestyle. And Josh tried to set me up with Gwyneth, and it was actually working. So I had a chance to go on a blind date with her. And one of my friends ratted me out to my wife, who we were just starting to date. And Kate said to me, "Look, you can go if you want, but I'm not waiting around. I'm not going to be here when you get back." And then I really had to think long and hard. It's like, Kate's such an awesome gal. I would be a fool to go to LA just to go on a date with this gal and risk losing Kate. So I basically said, "Oh, I'm not going to go." I canceled this blind date that I was going to have with her. And then Kate and I ended up getting married probably 2 years later. So wise choice. That was now just shy of 20 years ago. But yeah, who knows? Who knows what had happened? But I made the right choice.
I think you did too.
Yeah.
You don't need to be in LA really or I guess she's in New York. But is there anything else? Oh, let me ask you this. What's one big mistake that you made, but that you have learned so much from?
Oh, I still make it. I make it every week.
What's your biggest one?
I continue to operate on people I shouldn't.
Isn't that the truth?
Knowing the Superman inside of me thinks, I can make this person happy, when my inner conscious is saying, run. And I don't listen to it because I think I can make them happy. And I fail. And it doesn't matter what I do with these hands, like, it ain't going to change. Like, if I could do one thing better, it would be to say no.
Or maybe listen to your staff. Maybe have a little layer there. If your staff feels any yellow flags, maybe let them help you.
You are spot on. Yes.
That's a good one. By the way, I have it's not a real survey that I'm doing, but it's just my own personal survey. I ask surgeons all the time, when you're sued, like, what was the problem? And every single time they say, I knew it was a problem, I thought I could handle it, and I couldn't.
Yeah. And, I think we all as surgeons think we can heal everything with a knife for the most part, but, you just can't heal this if this is broken.
Right.
And, it's actually sort of funny. My wife will sometimes, "Don't touch her." And I'll be like, "Oh, I can do it." And she's like, "Dave, step away."
Good.
And I'm starting to get better at it, but I still make that mistake repeatedly. So.
Well, it can't be too bad because your reviews are fabulous. They're really good. By the way, just as an aside, I saw that you had one of those, the 1-star reviews, because as a patient, because I am a patient, my eye immediately is attracted to that. And then I want to read it. And that particular patient, thankfully, was a nut job, and you could hear it. And then you guys had a really good response to it. And normally I would say, "Oh, don't even jump in." But it was a good idea because the rest of your reviews are so authentic. And the people are always saying the same thing. I love Dr. Kaufman. He listens to me, he's kind, and his staff takes really good care of me. And then you had the one crazy. So that's how to do reviews. I think it looks crazy when you have all 5 reviews, 5-star. I think that looks ingenuous, and I don't trust that. But I love that there was the one, but thankfully it was so extreme that it balanced out beautifully. Yeah, and your photos are good.
Well, we get those. You clearly didn't dig too deep because there's plenty more than just one-star review. If they're super crazy, I let that stand.
Yeah.
If they're, if there's some validity to what they're saying, I try and respond because I think it's the right thing to do. People have differing viewpoints on that, but I think, it never hurts to take a gulp of pride and admit when you were wrong or say you can do things better. But the true crazies, I just let those alone for the most part.
Yeah. Well, it is pretty amazing though, as much surgery as all of you do, trying to make a woman happy who thinks she knows what she wants until she sees it. It's a very emotional roller coaster for a female cosmetic patient. So kudos to you. I mean, I think you all should be rich. Just trying to deal with all the emotions of this. Anyway, so good for you. And good for you. Your practice is lovely, just lovely. You're doing a great job. If you want to know my 2 cents, So how can they hear more about you? Where can they find you online?
Oh, well, our website, or certainly our Instagram account. So our website's thenaturalresult.com, and our Instagram account is Kaufman and Davis Plastic Surgery. If someone wants to chat with me, my personal email is david@thenaturalresult.com, and you're certainly welcome to give us a call. And if you ever want to come visit our practice, we're more than happy to host anyone who wants to come and see.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for being on Beauty in the Biz.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Everybody, thanks so much. Please subscribe to Beauty in the Biz if you haven't already, and please give a review if indeed you've gotten a lot of value out of this. And you can always share this with your colleagues and your staff because they can get many pearls out of these interviews. And then, of course, if you've got any questions for me, just leave them at CatherineMaley.com. And you can always follow me also on Instagram at Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much. Talk again.